right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. First off, Chinese military surveillance devices is game changer in electronic warfare. So again, this is something that can actually track or trace or find any signal. That means that there will be no hiding. If this is truly existing, then we are basically in a lot of crap. It says that details of the game-changing technologies were published by a project lead scientist, Yang Kai, a professor from the School of Information and Electronics at the Beijing Institute of Technology. His team in a peer-reviewed paper in the Chinese academic journal Radio Communications Technology on January 17th. In the paper, Yang wrote that the new breed of electromagnetic spectrum monitoring gear is small in size, high in performance, and low in power consumption. So they definitely make it sound really, really good in every section here. Is it true? Well, we better hope not, because essentially, even if there were encrypted messages or private band, anything, even if the U.S. said our comms are now compromised, we go over to civilian radio or something like that, they will be able to detect even that. That is what they are saying here. It says in the paper Yang wrote of the new breed, due to the enormous amount of data to be processed in the heat of combat, this technology was previously considered a pipe dream. The scientist said it will cause a profound shift in the art of war. It also says that China and the United States are currently locked in an intense tussle for dominion over the electromagnetic spectrum. And we've been talking about this for 5-6 years. Now it is the main weapon. We talked about DEWs, or directed energy, before the DoD actually came out and said it existed. In fact, on the internet just a few short years ago, not even after I started, it was about 3 or 4 years ago, when the DoD did a speech and said direct energy exists and China and Russia have weaponized space. When we talked about it, it was a theory, and you were a nut job if you talked about DEWs. Now the big thing, as far as everybody that's been covering the what is it? The Cuba, as far as that frequency thing that was hurting everybody. Cuba syndrome? Cuban. Dex, let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex
Havana
James.
syndrome.
Havana syndrome. Yeah. Havana syndrome was a theory, and now they're saying that it's actually probably testing of a very horrid and even worse weapon. As far as the electromagnetic band, if they utilize this and master it, we're talking about some serious trouble for the U.S. military. We better hope that this is propaganda and that they are just blowing smoke. In recent months, civilian weather radars in South China Sea have reported mysterious interferences, leading some military experts to suspect a covert, quote, dance was taking place between Chinese and American naval forces. While bullets and bombs have yet to fly, the electronic battlefield is already ablaze. But while China was once a disadvantage, now it seems to be gaining ground, with reports that the military is growing more assertive. Chinese state media reported last month that its advanced Type 055 destroyer had single-handedly blocked the advance of an entire U.S. aircraft carrier strike group, something which was unimaginable in the past. Although there may be exaggerated elements in China's propaganda, interviewed officers and soldiers revealed an important detail. They had activated electromagnetic emitting equipment, including high-power phased array radars, and firmly locked on to a series of targets, including U.S. carrier-based aircraft in the offensive and defensive contest of electronic warfare. So, if this is at all true, we have covered so many stories, and this is coming out not only from us, coming out from France, as far as the UK, UK intelligence. You had Mossad and all of these other, crazy three-letter agencies saying that they had information that China was building these crazy systems. Now, is it all propaganda to make us think that it's the big bad wolf, or is the big bad wolf actually becoming the big bad wolf? And is it inhaling to try to blow our house down? We'll talk about this and much, much more on tonight's show. We have tons to go over. So again, we're going to go over tonight's docket, which is China issues ominous warning. We, of course, are going to talk about Finnish military production plants go 5x, fivefold. They are actually now making 5 times what they were just a few days ago. It says that Tucker is interviewing Putin. We have, of course, U.S. adversaries hold massive joint drill. We have more ships attacked. We have China boost chip production, and in a crazy way, we have feds talked of a planned event at the border. No mixing signals there. Elon is sowing the seeds of intelligence. We have, of course, what happened to NYPD's robot. We have how fast will fast food become affordable again, and something galactic over Florida. Call 911. It will all be in just a moment. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Here, all inside. You can run, you can hide. All right, we're going to do a quick roll call. We've got Uncle Iro from Washington State. I already saw Central Florida in the house. I saw Ohio. We've got Western New York, Buffalo, Tracy Q. We've got Dex James from Georgia. We've got Mississippi reporting, Jonathan Floming. Nice to see you. We have Kentucky Foxhole here in Bullitt, Colorado. We have Mike Taylor News here. We've got the Salt Lakers from Russia. Iowa, North Iowa, Diane Whitlock. We've got Gail from Arkansas, Central Wisconsin, WIS Jen. Three Horses Running from East Tennessee. We've got Kent Reeder from Michigan. DW David's Way from Wong in the Thong. We've got Australia here. Blue Boy 1968. Nice to see you. Sam Carroll. Rhonda from Virginia. Morrison, Colorado. Nickel Wise. Nice to have you. Center of the Universe / Chicago. Stephen McMahon. Nice to see you. And nice to have, we actually don't have that many people from Chicago here for some reason. And we've got Baltimore, we've got Pennsylvania, Northern Idaho, Oz, Fort Wayne, Indiana, and so many more. Thank you guys for making it to tonight's show. Donella, Ready Now, Mama Hamster, Digital Mouse, and everybody else, thank you. Looks like we already have about 1.7 thousand in the chat, so thank you guys for making it to the show already. So thank you. I'm assuming most of you joined us and you were ported over, so thank you guys for being here. All right, let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So first of all, on that first story, just to touch on this because it is a really big deal, they will be able to track or trace if they are telling the truth. And if this is a real technology, it would completely shift everything, because then how are they going to communicate quietly if there is a ship that's trying to hide or in silent mode and communicating through encrypted messages? That won't exist. Is this why DHS was coming up with new systems to communicate that we covered a couple of years ago? You think something like that?
Yeah, it's certainly going to have to, they're going to have to look at different spectrums. For them to hide communications, they're going to have to be in spectrums that aren't detectable at a much higher megahertz, or even further past the gigahertz range. So I don't know, that's a little bit beyond my technical understanding, but even though you can encrypt the messages so that no one else can understand what it is you're saying, they'll be able to at least see that communication is happening, or that transmission and is in reception in that area is happening. And that's what they're talking about here. They, in the past, could only look at bursts of that. Or they could only look at short periods of that in the spectrum. And you would typically, to hide, you would make sure that everything you sent was done in small, short bursts, so that there were longer gaps of time that it wouldn't be detected, and you have a better chance of them not seeing you. But now they have the ability to see that at full spectrum in the higher spectrum. So that's going to, potentially give it away if you're communicating, ship to ship or ship to space or whatever. That can give away a location. And now I don't, I'm sure that this is something that we're working on, or we have probably even have other types of solutions in place for other levels of communication. And I know that we have been spending a lot to build different types of communication systems, especially secure ones that can't be detected. So, but again, I'm getting way beyond my technical understanding, so I don't want
And
to
and
send
if
anybody down the wrong path.
and if they, as far as you're talking about, if they can triangulate, and so say they see a a ping, they will know that there's something there. So the thing is there's a lot of different ways that not only ships, naval ships, but other, obviously submarines, they go silent. Ships can go down to quiet. They can essentially have the entire ship be silent, so nobody can actually track them. If they do, they even go dark as far as communications. They won't communicate at all. And sometimes that's the only way that they would be able to hide. But if there's anything on that ship, they would be able to detect it. If there's something on that's not communicating, would they be able to detect that? Would they be able to then triangulate it, see an image of it? That is what some of the commenters on this were saying on the South China Morning Post. Remember, this is coming from the South China Morning Post. It is their propaganda. And it very well could be, it could be something that they're putting out there on purpose for this. But they say it's a peer-reviewed journal that put this technology out. Obviously, are they going to share it? Probably not, right? So we'll see what happens with that. This is on top of another story that was just reported. Are they reporting all of these stories to scare the U.S. or to scare other countries? Because they also reported that they have a low Earth technology from low Earth satellites that would be able to block all of the radar from our ships. Now, from our side, if they confirmed some of that, they said that an entire U.S. carrier strike group got stopped by a single 055 type destroyer, then that's absolutely scary. If they're saying that they used electromagnetic warfare to actually stop this whole group or to screw up their electronics, then that's bad. Because the other thing that they're claiming is that these low Earth satellites could not only block the radar that would be used to not only knock out incoming missiles, but would also be used to shoot missiles out of that and hit their targets. So if they can block that with 3 satellites, they said that they could take out our carriers. They said 28 of these satellites, they claim they could take out our entire, basically take out the global structure of radar and everything. They say they could knock everything out with 28 low Earth satellites. Do we believe the claim? I don't believe anything that comes out of China, but once we see it being used, it's kind of too late. So you kind of got to know about what is actually happening. As far as Chinese state media issues ominous warning about world war with NATO. Once again, you have the comments from China matching up with pretty much everyone in NATO. It says, amid the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, a Chinese newspaper warned on Sunday that the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, could expand the conflict into, quote, a world war. The high tensions between Russia and NATO have seemingly escalated in recent weeks after the military alliance's announcement last month of its largest military exercise in more than 35 years, dubbed Steadfast Defender 2024. The operation launched in late January and will run through May. It ultimately will include participation of around 90,000 military personnel from 31 NATO allies and Sweden. I like how Sweden now is like the third wheel here. NATO officials have said that the exercise will test the allies' ability to quickly deploy forces and test new defense plans. Military analysts have speculated Steadfast Defender is meant to prepare the alliance members for the potential for a future Russian invasion on NATO territory. The military alliance's announcement about the operation did not mention Russia by name, though based the documents from the military alliance obtained by Reuters, Russia is viewed as the biggest security threat to its member nations. One of the primary goals of the exercise will be to, quote, demonstrate NATO's ability to rapidly deploy forces from North America and other parts of the alliance to reinforce the defenses of Europe. Another thing to point out is a story that we just recently covered. Dex, do you want to tell them what happened with Australia and a recent drill that we did, which looked a lot like what Russia did before they took over Ukraine?
Yeah, so we did a large drill last year in Australia, and we put a whole lot of equipment in there for the drill. And instead of packing it all up and bringing it back home, we just left it there. And that's exactly what Russia did 1 year to the date, just about, when they invaded UKR. They went in a year before, they ran these drills right up on the border. They left all this equipment, literally left it stacked and ready to go. Said, we're just going to leave it here. We'll come back and maybe we'll do a drill later. And then, of course, they came back a year later and then they went to conflict. They invaded. So the notion is that, and this is quite often done this way, you run drills or you run military exercises to move equipment and move people around so you can get over the fact that people are going to be like, oh my gosh, look at all that military movement. Well, no, don't worry. It's just an exercise. Nobody cares that the military equipment didn't go home. They just notice it on the way in. So that's what happened in Australia.
And as far as Australia goes, think about the coming exercise with 90,000 troops. They move gear in, they move structures, they move temporary hospitals, temporary barracks, all artillery, tanks, these kind of things for the drill. This is what we look for. Do they bring them home or do they leave the stuff there? If they leave the stuff there, then we're going to war. And it will be really, really clear at that point. So people will be able to notice real quick. So we'll see what ends up happening there. And let's see here. Let's go over to Finland. A Finnish plan is to hike ammunition production 5-fold due to Russia's conflict in Ukraine. The Finnish plan is now going to 5x their production. Is this for Russia or is it for something else? Dex, do you want to go over why is this Finnish plan essentially 5xing their production?
Well, they want us to think that it's because they need it for UKR, but we actually know Finland recently joined NATO. We actually know that the U.S. made an alignment with Finland to put and use their bases there. They did that before they were accepted into NATO. This now puts NATO and the U.S. and everyone else right at the front door of Russia. So that's kind of a scary thought when you think about all the rhetoric and really all of the posturing that's going on and the war prep that's going on between NATO and between Russia. So now that we see all of a sudden Finland is 5xing its ammo to build it up, they claim it's for UKR. Again, kind of like when you say we're going to have a drill and move a bunch of equipment. Well, we claim it's a drill, but we're really just moving a bunch of equipment. So now they're 5xing this munition build out. And their factories are running full steam ahead. It makes me think that they're really getting prepared and getting set up, because we also know, and we've talked about this before, that Russia has been saying they're going to put a military and push more military forces right there on the wall of Finland. So if all of a sudden we've got NATO and the US and everybody using Finland and stacking up in Finland and Russia putting up against that border, that certainly looks like a potential hotspot if things are going to kick off between NATO and Russia.
So with this, it's like, you can look at it exactly how they say it, or you can kind of put it together with the 50,000 other signs that something is amiss. And what do you get? It's not like people think that this is like stretching with all of the other things that have happened. And then it was a stretch at that point. And then when it happens, they're like, oh, I guess, well, they actually knew about this way before. It's like, well, yeah, almost every time. Before we move on, remember, as far as the next conflict, it looks like it's going to be a lot of electronic warfare. We've called this for years. The community has seen this coming for a very long time. Most of our prepping community already has an EMP shield. But as far as if you don't know what one is, it's a device that can protect your cars, trucks, and motorcycles, boats, and pretty much anything else that runs, including your generators in your home, even your ham radio, against not only an EMP, electromagnetic pulse attack, that could knock down our grid, but also a CME from the sun. If we have a Carrington level event, this will end up grounding the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it can fry your device. Go to marfuglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. The same company is outfitting agencies like DHS, DOD, and the Dempster team helping protect the Texas grid. Go to marfuglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. If they are out, things are going crazy. So again, with the invasion of UKR, it got crazy as well. If they are out of the main EMP shield, just as good as the EMP Shield Micro, it's a few bucks more, but it is also 78% smaller, and it has all the same protection, just in a smaller package. It's actually better if you have a smaller vehicle or a motorcycle or something where you need to fit it in somewhere. It's very easy to do. Red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, and green to ground, and then bolt it into the side of your block or on your bike. MarfoogleNews.com/EMP. That way you'll get home to bug in or get out to bug out. Made in Kansas, 100% American made by a veteran-owned company. And then Moscow, Tucker Carlson is interviewing Vladimir Putin in Moscow, accuses White House of spying to try to stop him. In his video, which I forgot to mention in the last video I did on this, is that he said that he believes the three-letter agencies went into his phone, got into their texts, and tried to stop him from actually doing this. It's a pretty big accusation. Does anyone not believe it, though? Not really. Pretty much everybody knows that that happens. As far as what he said is that, of course, they're looking into his phone at all times. They're spying on him. Technically, with what's going on, a lot of people are calling him the traitor, him treasonous. He's, a spy or this or that. He's interviewing Putin. Now, this has made it look like if you were to step outside from some other planet, if you looked at the Republican Party and the people that support Tucker right now, they're making it to as if, Republicans are communists. I can already see that connection being made. You also have people in the party split as is. Other people are looking at this and going, okay, there have been tons of journalists that have interviewed different presidents from around the world, including Putin, and they say it's journalism if it's all of these other people. The second that he does it right now, it's called treason or he's a traitor. Mind you, they have blocked most of their platforms here in the United States, which is a shady move. We're all adults. We should probably be able to see all media, but essentially they have told us many, many times they do not believe that us adults, 18 plus and up to 90, that we are basically not responsible enough to have discernment. They do not believe we have the correct discernment. That's why they have fact checkers. That's why they have all of these things to make sure that we're safe from the big bad info. Unfortunately, I would think a good way to fix the problem of misinformation and disinfo is to be able to have true information and to teach people how to have discernment. But that's not a thing anymore. They're not teaching that in school. In fact, they're teaching agendas in school instead of teaching people how to figure out through, just kind of trial and error, what is right, what is wrong, what is correct, what is incorrect. These are things that you should be able to find through kind of a process, right? But people don't have that process anymore. That is gone. You are not allowed to hear what he says, or you should basically pitchfork the guy for talking to the ex-president. My opinion, I'm totally, I'm not against somebody interviewing because I think I can judge for myself, and I think all of you are smart enough that if he does spout out some propaganda, that we'll be able to spot it. One thing I also mentioned on there is the fact that he is saying things in even his speech that is now viral. It is probably on purpose that that's viral right now. As far as his speech talks about talking points that are going on in the USA that many people on one side actually agree with. Is he doing that on purpose to try to garner support from one side? Is he trying to make it look like he's the good guy? Again, all of this could be 4D chess. It could be part of a bigger, way bigger picture that we don't know about. Tucker could be some sort of agent for the very, the people at the very top. Or he could legitimately be, one of the last few, like, go against the grain journalists that still has pull in public. Now, there's lots of great journalists, but most of them are on Substack or buried somewhere on the internet. There's very few that are left that still have positions because you can't get a good job in media if you go against the grain. Why? Well, if you look at the media and the banners that precede that media, are they going to talk badly about a corporation that their banner played right before the show? Probably not. So you have, are they going to talk about, pharma companies if they're the ones that are 90% of their sponsor? Probably not. Then the other news that's not sponsored by them, they might talk about them, but they might not talk about, who knows, Bank of America or something, because they're sponsoring them. And that's how it is turned into a horrible system where our news got mixed in with, of course, sponsorships by huge corporations. These corporations got so big that they weren't paying 2% of the sponsorship for a show, where if the show wanted to say something bad about them and they lost that sponsor, they wouldn't care. But if they talk bad about that company and that company is the biggest thing on the planet, then they lose all of their sponsorship. I almost think to fix this, they could have made it so where any kind of public news could only be sponsored 1% or something by all these different companies, right? Just an idea, but it's like, how do you fix something like that? If you understand what I'm saying, there's certain companies that, say CNN, it's like 90% of it is funded by a single company. And that single company, there's conflicts of interest where over the last few years were involved where they couldn't say anything bad about it. So yeah, with Tucker Carlson, what do you guys believe? I know people are going to hate me for it, but at this point, I think people do need to speak their mind and say, hey, I don't believe this, or I believe this. People are afraid to support certain people because they're afraid of being labeled something. At this point, everybody is accusing everybody of being this, everybody of being that. Personally, from going through that myself, and everybody labeling all of my peers something. If I have somebody on my show, they say, oh, he's this, he's that. And I'm like, I'll be like, he works at a gas station. Like, what are you talking about? It's just my point that everybody has an opinion about everybody, and you really can't please everybody. As far as Tucker Carlson, what do you guys think about him? Let me know in the comments below. Is he a traitor for interviewing a president? It's the same thing that's happened 1,000 times over, and all of those other ones weren't called traitors. But is he doing it in such a way that he is a traitor? I would like to hear your opinion about it. Let me know in the comments down below. Or is he trying to champion free speech? By the way, thank you, Richard Mason, Genius by Birth, member for 5 months, says, thank you, God, for this family who never fails me. Hey, thank you, and thank you for your support. Genius by Birth, thank you for always gifting everybody subs, and thank you for being at almost every single show. So thank you. And then I just want to point out, thank you, Mimi Carstel. I believe I missed you at the very end of the show yesterday. Thank you so much. Adrian Maldonado, thank you, and thank you. Appreciate you as well. Craig Alicious for Love of Country 1, Jerry Schertz, Julie Pilkerton, and Neil Nelson. Not to forget about Zenwen AZ, Sharon Davis, or Necroland TV. Thank you. Dex, do you want to go over Gulf of Oman, U.S. greatest adversaries to hold massive joint military exercise?
So here we go again. Now it is being said, according, I believe this was coming out of South China Morning Post, that both Russia and Iran and China are going to be preparing and holding joint war game naval drills before the end of March. So that's coming up. Now, and we don't know the exact location, but the assumption is when they've done this before last year, it was in the Gulf of Oman or in those waters. Now, there's a couple interesting things to consider here. One, as we said earlier, with what Russia did to UKR and what the US did in Australia, was move equipment, move people, move ships, move whatever you need to into those locations. The ships is not a big deal because they're constantly on the move, but that could be part of it. The other thing that we got to worry about, though, is there is a lot of conflict happening right now in the waters around that area. And we've seen everything from ships being struck by as they get close to Yemen, and we've seen other ships being hijacked and taken over in that area as it's heading into that direction. So if anything is going on in that area, and now we see the potential security issues that we're dealing with intermixed with all of a sudden drills happening by these countries, I could see how things could escalate quickly, turn from what would be normal to bad in a hurry.
And as far as will they take the same route that Russia took, and will they use this exercise to move things? It's been a common tactic, and it's been used several times in just the last 5 years. So we'll see what ends up happening. Thank you over on in chat. Thank you for being here. One on B, Starship Conspiratary. Tucker stands for peace, truth, and transparency. Most people support it, but again, like there are like there was lots of people that had Republican in their name on Twitter saying that he's a traitor, it's treasonous. I think most people want to know the truth. I think most people look at the people that are getting booted and that they're not allowed to hear. Most people believe those people over the people that are still allowed to speak. Let's see here. Flock together. What's going on? We've got stealth mode. Hey, I'm totally cool with Tucker. I was, I'm a human being. I get nervous about telling my true opinion about some stuff because if you are sitting on this side of it, people, think about this. If you say something, people send you letters, people write you email after email, people give you threats. Like, if it's really crazy how polarized everybody really is. But even in your own community, people get really nasty. I honestly, the whole thing with, I know that most of these people are evil, but it's kind of like you root for the underdogs, and I feel like there is a genuine kind of thing to keep Tucker from talking, and anybody that gets shut down, I feel kind of like, camaraderie that, when you get shut down or held down, that, a lot of us in this community, especially the creators, we feel like that's something that, we can see it happening, and we know it's wrong. So you feel like the right thing to do is to kind of hold out your hand and help them back up. I don't know. I hope I communicated that clearly, and then Yemen. Suspected drones used by Yemen's Houthi rebels attacked 2 more ships in Mid-East waters. Suspected drones used by Yemen's Houthi rebels attacked 2 more ships, and it was done essentially right near some pretty serious groups of military. 2 ships traveling the Middle East when the waters were attacked by suspected Houthi rebels. Tuesday, the latest assaults in the Iranian-backed fighters' campaign of targeting vessels over Israel's conflict in the Strip. It says the first attack happened in the southern part of the Red Sea, west of the Yemeni port of the Hodeidah, with the projectile causing, quote, slight damage to the vessel's windows on the bridge. The British military United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations, a small vessel had been nearby the ship before the attack. The private security firm Ambry identified the vessel as a Barbados-flagged United Kingdom-owned cargo ship. No one was hurt on board the vessel, which suffered minor damage. So, again, the second ship under attack later Tuesday off Yemen's southern port of city of Aden, and it said the vessel reported an explosion 50 meters off its starboard. So in both cases, you didn't have anyone perish, and you wonder if this is going to be something that could escalate something, or will this just be another kind of blip on the radar of all of the events that are happening? And then Dex, do you want to go over China aims to boost chip production despite U.S. restrictions?
So we have been really trying to prevent them from expanding their chip generations, what they call the next generation chips, which are for smartphone processors as well as other, especially in the AI field, are some of the areas that we really want to hold them back for. But it seems like we weren't successful. The U.S. was not successful in actually curbing those developments of the advanced technologies as it's being reported now. So the Chinese chip makers are expected to make next generation smartphone processors as early as this year. So the Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corp is one of the big chip makers there, has now put the production lines in for Shanghai, and they're going to be mass producing, especially for Huawei, which we all know is banned here, but you can get in other countries. That's one of the major phones that comes out of China. So this was one of the many things we were trying to hold them back from, with holding the tech back, not necessarily sanctioning, but limiting the amount of information and sanctioning too what chip technology was allowed to be sold there. So all of that was going on, and they're still making their progress. They're still making significant headway, and this goes in line with everything we've been saying. A lot of people say, "Oh, don't worry about China; they're way behind." But every time we turn around, they seem to be making massive and big achievements and movements in the technology, the military, the space, all of the different sectors, including AI and especially bio and medicine. So yeah, as much as we'd like to think that they're old school, they're not.
Yeah, and most of our community that's watched and seen the headlines. All you need to see is probably the 10, 20, 30 headlines from the actual Pentagon, and showing that there's white papers showing that the China is ahead of us in all of these areas, where slowly people are starting to realize, like, not everything in China is going to fall apart right after they make it. They have China has this huge reputation, especially in America, which part of that was American propaganda to make sure that we were not afraid of China. And at one point we didn't need to be, but it was part of that thing. Plus, not to mention all of the cheapest stuff in America, that they cut corners, and all of the horribly bad dollar store stuff was made in China. So the 90% of the cheap things we saw, the cheap of everything, it was all made in China. So that made us associate China with cheap. But the reason why China was cheap is because they were paying peanuts for labor, and they were cutting all costs. They didn't have any bureaucratic red tape. They didn't have dangerous, they didn't have a lot of restrictions on something that might hurt you, or, they could get around all the stuff that here in the United States we wouldn't make, because it would either be dangerous, it would be hard to make, the labor behind it would be, cruel, something like this. They didn't have those restrictions. As far as the reason why they made it with cheap materials, because they were trying to make more money. The cheaper they made it, the more money they made. They are greedy. They made as much money as literal possible, but that doesn't mean that they're not smart. It doesn't mean that Chinese people rank higher than Americans in all sorts of categories as far as education. These are smart people. I mean, you guys really think about it. Who did you go to school with? Who are the kids? Who are the cultures? Indian cultures, Chinese cultures, cultures that actually, went to college, that made it to every school, that had the 4.0 GPAs. These are in their culture in China. Think about this. They went as far to ban games except for 3 hours on Fridays for the country. That's how much they're focused on having their youth be, good in school. If you didn't go to school in certain cultures, not only Chinese, you get disowned. If you fail if you get an F on a paper, you get disowned. And they're not kidding. Like in America, haha, I'll disown you. It's a joke. It's not a joke in some countries. These are the folks that we're dealing with. Meanwhile, our older generations, it was closer to that. But look at the generations now. Look at the data on our schools here in the United States. We're not number one in that area. And that's going to be important in 10, 20 years. If you look at how many kids are dropping out, look at how many kids are not making it to school. And we're still thinking that China is so backwards behind that it's going to fall apart. It's not like that anymore. They're ahead of us in 37 out of 44 key areas in advanced technology. Advanced technology is where the war is going to be. So people should pray that when they come at us with an autonomous drone carrier, that the frickin' port side just drops off and falls into the water. We better hope, but I will prep like as if it's going to stay together. And then make sure to go check out, if you haven't already, OffGrid bags. A lot of folks have been asking about us. We don't really show these that often, but a lot of folks have been asking if there is an option to actually protect yourself, protect your stuff, protect, of course, your laptops, your electronics, your key fobs, your tablets. Go to marfoogle.news.com/offgrid. They actually used to make these under the, I can't even remember their old name. What was their old name? Dex, do you even remember?
Yeah, they transferred away from that. It was EDEC.
It was EDEC, EDC, and it was, they actually made evidence bags for all sorts of different agencies. And these bags were so good that essentially they could protect. Nobody could hack or track or trace or do anything to anything in these bags. So if they took a laptop for evidence, they would put it in an EDEC bag. Now they're off grid. They've opened up to consumers. These are super high quality, and they're incredible bags. The second you put your phone in one, the second you put your tablet or any device, not only can nobody access that device, nobody can track it, nobody can trace it, but also it's not going to be affected by outside frequencies as far as that goes. They also have the duffel bag, which is a Faraday duffel bag. You can basically throw in all your stuff. And then they have the backpack that has a slot for pretty much every tech piece that you would have in a 3-day go bag. So go check them out, marfooglenews.com/offgrid. Make sure to use the code Marfoogle. And of course, catch them while they have that big discount. All right. And let's go over to Tennessee. Feds arrest alleged militia sniper, apparently or allegedly planning an attack at the southern border. Dex, do you want to go over this? Fantastic Freddy style.
Well, yeah. So here we go. They're alleging that this person that they've acquired was working with other militias in Kentucky, Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, and that they were part of a group that was going to cause and create some chaos, so to speak, down at the Eagle Pass area. They, I guess, picked the person up from selling an unregistered piece of equipment to probably an ATF or a federal agent that was undercover at the time. And that's how they were able to detain him or put them in custody. And then from that, they've then said that the rest of this has happened, that this person was supposed to be doing these things, had planned to, take someone out from a long range and do this with a bunch of these groups that was going to cause and create confrontation and, basically going after probably a federal agent of some sort would be my guess as I read between the lines here. So it certainly has all the makings of, you could sort of see like there's a lot of disbelief around this. Is it true? Is it made up? I mean, with all the stuff that's been going on with the federal agents and with, the rhetoric that's out there about either their participation, whether it's undercover or not, in other events and how they may have been involved in that. That's certainly on everyone's mind when you hear a story like this. I don't have any insight into any of these people and whether or not they were doing these things or not doing these things. That's just what they're reporting, and it's kind of news to me.
And as far as you look what it says, it's AR-15s and a sniper arrested Monday after selling an undercover agent unregistered AK-47 suppressor for $100. Now, just one question. Just say they're alleging that he said this. Do they have it recorded? Did they do this as a sting? Do they have the man saying it? Do they have video of that? Will they ever release something like that for the public? And then it just makes you wonder, like, could they say in another scenario, somebody is doing something that is not, legit. Say they're selling a part or something like this. In future instances, could they then say, oh, here's a scenario where we've got this guy doing something, we've got him, he's selling this part, and then basically make up everything around it. See, he was really selling the suppressor, whatever else, but then they could insert whatever they want and grab some sort of patsy like it. Or was this guy a legit crazy? Was he joking? Was he, doing, was he being humorous? What I think is bad though is like it's not. It wouldn't be a funny joke if it was done. But you see these journalists just a couple weeks ago that got a lot of crap, and even got praised by some, making a joke and comparing T-Man and saying, oh yeah, if he does drive through, he should drive through with a convertible. Basically comparing him to a certain J, F, and a K. So it's like jokes like that happen too. Was it jokes? Was it real? Was he really trying to do this? Did it even happen? Who knows? I saw a lot of people saying liars, this and that, not, the Ganda machine. It begins, right? Gosh, something like this could trigger all out civil conflict. And then out of San Francisco, Elon Musk had twins with his top Neuralink executive, but they never dated. She explains he wants smart people to have kids, so he encouraged me to, and he is the person she admires most in the world. Which, by the way, when you read this article, let me go into it. her actual quote was, let me see the actual quote. Let's see here. Yeah. He says, if the choice is between an anonymous donor or doing it with the person you admire more in the world, for me, it was a pretty effing easy decision. And I'm thinking, this woman is like a genius. And she's sitting there, not saying smart people don't swear. Dex said he was like, well, pretty much every smart person swears, right? But I'm thinking you're doing a public statement and saying, oh, yeah, the decision is pretty effing easy. Like, I could see her saying that in her own life or with her friends. But for for an interview saying that, that's just kind of not classy. I just thought, if you're with your friends and family or whatever, but for a interview that that's going to go worldwide, you're supposedly this super incredibly genius, smart Yale University attended person, and that's just, I guess, considered okay now. Anyways, but then she basically says that they didn't actually hook up, that it was IVF or in vitro, and that her twins, which, people do IVF and don't get anything out of it, she got twins out of it, and they're both going to be half Elon Musk. So I don't know if that adds to the number, by the way. I thought Elon already had like 6 kids. Does that mean he technically has 8 now? And has he done this with other people? Because this was on the low. She's also the executive of the company, Neuralink, which is putting and implanting chips into people's heads so they can control things with their brains. Like, the world we are in right now is absolutely nuts. Dex, this is kind of a weird arrangement. Some folks don't exactly believe it.
Yeah, it's awfully strange and very egotistical on both of their parts to think that they're so brilliant they should be, helping populate the world with their genius offsprings. But that's to each their own. That's what they can do. There's nothing preventing it, and it apparently, they went down that path. I don't know if it would have been any different if they had a romance, but it's certainly a way of doing things. And I guess her point was, I wanted kids and I didn't want to have a partner to do it with. I was going to go get them on my own. So I guess if she could choose anybody out there, I mean, you've always heard the joke, if you could choose Superman for your, but maybe he's her Superman.
But what was that conversation like? Like they're at the water cooler and, fill in the blanks. Well, actually, I think he did that, but you get what I mean.
My guess is an office party and some drinks.
And then they come up with this whole IVF thing. Yeah, that's probably more likely. That's pretty bad. And did we look at? I remember I asked you to look up pictures of her. Did we ever look at what she looks like?
No, I never saw that.
I just wonder what the babies are going to look like.
2 years old now.
Yeah,
they're 2 years old now.
Elon and blank person made babies. What did they look like? Anyways, and it's just a different world. Maybe he believes in the movie Idiocracy, right? If you haven't seen Idiocracy, there's a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of people. Every time I mention an older movie, they're like, "Oh, that's too old." There are so many good old movies that you have to watch that are like required watching. If you watch this show, you have to go watch Idiocracy. You will go, "Oh my gosh, this was made when?" It is such a funny movie, and I don't want to hype it up. The more you hype up a movie and say it's funny, the less funny it's going to be, because people are like, "Oh, they made it out to be funny." Then they watch it expecting something. But go watch it. At least look at it. Anybody that has seen Idiocracy knows exactly what I mean by the smart people producing and the stupid people producing and the smart people going, let's wait until the economy gets better. It's the first 10 minutes of the movie. Just watch the first 10 minutes and you'll understand. Anyways, many people think that that's happening. And I thought that they did like a study on it and they were trying to prove that. Now, the NYPD ditches its... We covered this stupid blob of a robot years ago, or what was it, last year? I don't even think it's been a year. It says 4 months, right? This stupid blob of a robot that they put in New York, they essentially said that this thing was just such a waste. that if it had any issues, if it found anybody, basically a human had to be involved anyways. It couldn't go up or down stairs. It had troubles with elevators. It had trouble with almost everything. It was essentially a big stuffed animal, only made out of hard plastic, that rolled around and snitched on people that, skipped out on payment. For the cost of it, they said it only cost $9 an hour. At that point, you're virtually halfway there to somebody who can do 10 times the amount of work. It said, paid for by the forfeiture funds, the robot cost $12,500. Adam said that the robot was costing the city just $9 per hour. This is below minimum wage. And that's in their brain. They're like, how can we pay minimum wage or less? It says no bathroom breaks, no meal breaks, Adam said when he first unveiled the new technology. The city had been leasing the robot from Nightscope, a California-based company, for a 7-month pilot period. By the way, they canned it today. They said, no, we're good. They did not continue this pilot. For the first 3 months of the contract, the robot was being prepared for patrol. So for 3 months at $9 an hour, it was being prepared. And mind you, this didn't work out. Well, the remaining 4 months were to test it out. The K5 robot could record video footage and included a button that members of the public could press when they wanted to contact the NYPD. So literally it was a walk around. It was a robot that walked around. It was a roll of quarters for you to call the real police. That was essentially what this is. This is a walking roll of quarters. Again, now we don't have payphones even. So I'm an AI expert. This is, okay, basically going over the AI. It says, I think the robot is just to scare people, Alexandra Reese told the New York Post. MTA employee Nick Liner said that he did not think the robot was a good idea, as he favored actual cops patrolling the subway over machines. We need police, not robots, he told the New York Post. It says, it's BS, straight BS. It's a waste of taxpayer money, Williams told the New York. That was, of course, a native. And they said, can they apprehend someone? Can they save someone who falls on the track? I wonder where the money goes, he told the New York Post. Now, as far as there's more to this. They can't go down the stairs. They can't do any of this stuff. Essentially, this thing just rolled around. I got to show you a picture of it. Did they have a picture? This thing is the stupidest looking thing in the world.
I got to go to the original.
Yeah, look at this stupid thing. And I almost thought, like, this is like a Black Mirror episode. Like, is there a human person in there? Like this reminds me of a robot they would make in a 50s movie and have a real person just walking around with like a handle on it, pretending to be a robot. Like, danger, Will Robinson. It looks so dumb. It is so gigantic. Like, this thing is huge. And what did it do? And add insult to injury, it has CPR on there. Somebody say somebody's choking. Oh, it says courtesy, professionalism, and respect. Yeah, it can't do anything a real cop could do. It can videotape you, but so can cameras. The same cameras that are covering every inch of this place. They could have done this with software, not a stupid robot that walks around. It's equivalent to, in Fred Meyer's here, about every 10 minutes, they have an automated message that goes, security check in section B. I've been going there for 30 plus years, and the same message plays. It either says A, B, or C. And I asked like 10 years ago, they're like, oh, that's just recorded. It just does that every once in a while. So if somebody happens to be stealing at the time, they go, oh, maybe I'm in section B, or maybe I'm in section C. These kind of stupid things may help, but man, what a waste of money. A human being could have also supported a family. That family then could have spent their money back on the economy, and it could have helped something. You employ something like this, not only are you spending money to get a minimal return, but you're also not helping the economy. You're not helping a family out, and you're not doing much of anything. It's a stupid idea, and I hope that, I hope this robot mess, I hope we de-evolve. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then let's hear Dex. Let's have you cover McDonald's promises affordability. I think we got to read between the lines on this one.
Yeah. I don't think they have a solution. They don't say they're coming out with a solution. They just say they're promising to come out with a solution, but I don't know if that's really what we want. And what you're seeing on the screen there, that is hamburger University in Chicago, where the CEO is, where the headquarters is for McDonald's. But nonetheless, they did say, hey, we understand that an $18 Big Mac combo or $6 hash browns is awfully expensive. And that is the case in certain areas. But I think aside from the fact that this is more of like a financial update and the CEO trying to let the financial markets know that they understand prices are high and they're going to try and fix them, I think we need to think about what does that mean to us? And we need to think about what they have been talking. And I'm not talking about McDonald's specifically here. I'm talking about the industry as a whole, where they are going to try to make things more economical. They have driven the prices up on things like beef, which goes into a patty on a Big Mac or any other, hamburger you may eat somewhere. They've driven those prices up and now they're expensive. And what used to be a, $7, $8 combo is now double that, to the point now where we are going to be begging for lower prices. And I am scared of what the solutions may be. The solutions are more than likely, and this is just my opinion, but I'm reading between the lines, the solutions are going to be alternatives to what we used to eat. They're going to be lab grown things. They're going to be alternative fillers and things added to, so they can stretch that out further and take that $18 Big Mac and make it only cost half as much so they can sell it to you for less money. And again, McDonald's is not saying that. I'm saying it. They're just saying they want to bring the prices down and they realize it's very hard. It was on an earnings call. It's when the CEO's talking and the other executives are talking to the financial world about the status quo of their company and what things are going on. I just wonder, and it's not just McDonald's, it's all of these big corporations and where we're headed in with the consumption of food and the manufacturing of food, and especially as we've seen the investments made by the likes of Gilly Bates and others to create these lab-grown types of products, whether it be meat or other things, to try to solve solutions to make mass production of beef or other things that we would normally just grow on the land.
I mean, where was it $18 too? Like I guess for a large combo, I bet it probably does get up there. It was so crazy to me when a burger was by itself like $6, $7, and I just couldn't believe that. I don't go to McDonald's. I've gone there. I've taken a party of kids to get stuff for a birthday party, stuff like that. And I used to eat this double cheeseburgers all the time. I would always eat the dollar menu, like especially when I was broke. I ate a ton of McDonald's back when they had a dollar menu or something. I'm scared to think about kind of what Dex is saying. Are they going to then say, hey, you can get a burger that tastes exactly the same, but it's made out of crickets, it's made out of bugs, right? That's where this is going to end up pushing people, and people go, they think in their heads that people are going to taste it, go, this tastes exactly the same. And then they're going to tell their friend and their friend. And the company itself will be able to spend 4 cents on a patty that's made out of crickets, or they'll get paid to make this patty. And people will buy it at, $4 instead. And you're saving, and you got a great deal at $4 for a cricket burger. That's terrifying. Otherwise, did they just raise the price for no freaking reason? Did they just raise the price just to take advantage of the CV and everything else? And are they actually able to and still profit? What if they dropped it by $10 to $8 for a combo meal and they still profited? That means during this whole time period that they just absolutely screwed us. I think, companies like this are disgusting, but again, I supported them for years. So I can't really talk. And $6 hash browns, that's just nuts. And let's go over to Florida. A 911 caller reports flare off of Florida coast. Cops say, but it was something galactic. I watched both the videos on this. Same with Dex. We got this sent to us by so many different people. And we'll let you be the judge for yourself. But first, I want to say thank you to Chanel Bevaliqua. Appreciate that. Thank you so much for your support. It says John Kerry's daughter married an Iranian official. Adam, Dex, tell us about this. Chanel Bevaliqua, I will have to look more into it off the top of my head. I've heard something about John Kerry's daughter. So tomorrow, which is Wednesday, I will fill you in on what I believe. And then if it's something that's like super fresh, I will let you know. Or if it's something that's old, I will learn about it. Ray the Way, why am I not worried? The same way we see China as a society is the same way we saw the Soviet Union. Cheap and at the same time advanced in technology. The Soviets were ahead of us back then. So, well, I don't know what to say to that, because I think with the Soviets back then, they may have been more advanced in nuclear, or in certain areas, and if I feel like they were advanced in some areas with certain military gear and things like that. I don't know if you could compare that to what modern day China has turned into. But Ray the Way, I see what you're saying, but I don't see them as cheap either. Like, the stuff that they're making for their own country does not go cheap at all. They don't use cheap labor. All of the corporations from around the world that wanted their stuff done cheaper, but also wanted quality, like they wanted parts done for surgical devices and things like this, they ended up giving China the ability, the equipment, the blueprints to be able to make super incredibly high-tech devices there. And they didn't want to pay peanuts. They were happy with, instead of paying somebody $50, paying them $20 in China. They shift it because each hour costs $30 less. In a day span, when you're doing the advanced stuff, you're saving billions of dollars by shipping your stuff over to China and paying extra in shipping. So I don't know. I would say that they're much scarier than back when the Soviet Union was. And we just covered that they are making nuclear weapons, and by 2030, they should be, or 2032, they should have the same amount as the US. That's the rate that they're making them at. But who knows? Maybe we're all being, propaganded. Every side is being propaganded, and maybe they're not really that bad. And then Chanel Bivalikua, thank you, and thank you. I appreciate that so much. And Jabik River, thank you for the support. Thank you for the super sticker. I appreciate that. And Craigalicious and everyone else, thank you. As far as the Florida caller that saw something, Dex, do you want to go over it? What did you think it was?
To me, it looks like something from the sky, like a meteor. But I could see, given the fact that it's right over the edge of the water there, and if I think we've got a Twitter video, we can sort of capture maybe a little bit in the top left corner. We can see what it looks like, and you guys can go look at it when you want. But I could see how it being on the coast, people would think it was a flare. The way it was sort of, you could see it coming down. But again, you might not have seen it go up, so you would think, well, maybe it's a flare coming down. Maybe there was a distress call out at sea, and that's what caused people to think this way. But certainly the image itself, and the light, it's right up in the top left, right near the numbers. I think you can kind of just see a little bit of it coming down. It looks like a typical fireball to me.
I'm trying to catch it and zoom in at the same time. If you see it up there, right there. What's really good about that? I think it's a meteor. I've seen ones that look just like that. But if you look at this clip, right there, you see it go behind the clouds. You'll have to go look at this on your phone and zoom in, because me showing it to you and then you looking at it most likely on your phone. If you're watching on the big screen, you'll be able to see that. But let's see here. Yeah, right there. Boom. And then you can see it. Let me try to zoom in one more time. You can see it going behind the cloud. That is so cool when it does that. When it and then you see it there, looks like it's a meteor that's getting eaten up by the atmosphere. But I don't know. That's weird. That the 3-1, whatever you call it. And now it goes again. Okay, let's stop this thing. And Dex, do you want to tell the folks about harvest rate real quick?
Certainly. So if you guys want to start freeze drying your own food, The best way to do it is with a Harvest Right freeze dryer. These freeze dryers are currently on sale they brought back their Black Friday pricing on most of their units, and they're all the pro units, and that's all they sell now. It's all pros. They've got the upgraded pumps. They're really, really great. Go check them out if you don't know anything about it. They have a ton of content on their website that'll explain exactly how the freeze drying process works. It's really simple. Take food, put it in a tray, put it in the machine overnight. It freezes it, dries it, which basically takes all of the moisture out of it. And now you have a product that is ready to be sealed up and stored for long term. And you can rehydrate it by just adding water. You can make a casserole dish. You can make all sorts of things. And everybody's favorite thing is candy. Everybody loves to be freeze drying candy for some reason. That's the hottest item right now. With everybody that's freeze drying, I guess they got done with all their real food that they stored up. But look, these are really good if you're trying to create a large amount of food for your family, or you have a garden, or you have specific dietary needs where buying the prepackaged stuff just doesn't make sense because you've got certain allergies or certain things you want to deal with. If you're trying to save money in the long run, it is cheaper to buy a freeze dryer and freeze dry your food, even if you're buying your food, let alone growing it. So lots of great opportunities here for preppers. A lot of preppers have these, and this, I believe, is one of the best out there. So go check it out. marfuglenews.com/freeze. Get it before the 14th or 15th, I think, is the day that the sale ends. It's a Valentine's Day sale. So $500 off. Make sure you check that out. marfuglenews.com/freeze.
And what and they say I didn't notice that, but it says premier pump included $795 value. The issue with freeze dryers is that they are expensive, and if you're saving up for it, the one bad part is with technology, with the chips used in all electronics now and machines, it's like the price on these is going up. So if you are sitting there, it's an expensive machine, you might have to save up. It's like you save up and then the price on machines can go up. They have tried to keep their prices low, but as far as the chip shortages and everything else that's going on with all of the different shipping, all of the stuff that's going on with the world with metals, I'd highly recommend, if you can, try to get it sooner than later, but don't put yourself out to the point where you're barely paying rent or something, or you have a bill and you end up getting this first. I would try to see if there's anything available too, like as far as like, there's a lot of stuff where you can do a payment plan and pay it off over time. But if you
have a layaway,
they have the layaway where you can put chunks down. So again, check that out. Otherwise, though, it will pay off in the long run, especially if you're trying to do 6 months, a year of food, and you get to pick the food and get a hobby out of it. So go check it out, marfuglenews.com/freeze.
Another thing, Adam, I've heard a few people do is get together with your friends and buy it together and share it. If you're trying to build a lot of prep food, that's another great way to do it.
Darren and my friend Brandon, them and their wives get together and do that. It's pretty cool. I mean, especially when I think people should get together and do that regularly now. When I go to Costco, it's not like I don't know if before there was like a thing. It was an 8-pack of huge mayonnaise. It's like I can't go through that much mayonnaise. It'll end up going to waste anyways. That's just an example. I just remember saying, like, I can't do $100 on a platter of mayonnaise right now. Like, that's a problem. If you went in it with other people, that's where I think that it would be, better. They should make like a multi-family Costco plan where people could go in on stuff together or something. There's a business idea. Put that in a folder and loan it. All right, you guys. Thank you, Chanel Beveliqua. Thank you over on DLive. We've got, of course, Beer Juice. Thank you, One on B. Thank you, Chance Paladin. Thank you, all of the mods. Make sure to go over to marfuglenews.com/friends and go find them over there. Of course, Leah, if you guys didn't hear, she, of course, went through hell. She's over in California, had that crazy, crazy storm. If you want to go to her link tree, you can go check out her animal sanctuary, which was just mangled. You can go to the link tray over on her website. At the very least, positive vibes and prayers. So please, thank you guys. Love you. Be safe. Be prepared. And Marf out. Thank you, Dex. Love you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
It's time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.